It's Monday and we're live. Thanks so much for joining me. This is Harriet Kamek. I'm an author and speaker and host of the Harriet Kamek Show. I do a daily podcast using this medium, and you can find more about me at harrietkamek.com, as well as you can go to the exodusfoundation.com and see what we do to help victims of human sex trafficking. In addition to being an author and a speaker and a broadcaster, I also work as an executive director of the Exodus Foundation. There, we provide services to victims of human sex trafficking. Our demographic and our population, our people, are women 18 and over who have been victimized as a result of trafficking. That means they were taken when they were children and now are left homeless and without hope, without help, as a result of being on the streets, as a result of traffic decimated their lives. So that's what we do. So go to my website, theexodusfoundation.com. You'll find more information about what we do. You can also find me. Anything about me is on Google. I don't know that they say anything bad about me. I haven't heard that yet or seen that. But I do know that people do talk about human sex trafficking victims. So feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on the web. I'm on Facebook, social media, all social media platforms, as well as through my website. You'll be able to message me through that portal as well. Thank you so much for joining us. I felt like I had to say that because the work that we do it in silence. We don't talk much about it because for the victim's sake, we try to keep their privacy and to keep their experiences as positive as possible. It's why we do what we do, because somebody's got to do it, right? Right? So good morning. DJ Damage. Hey, dude. How you doing? Right? And I'm supposed to tune into your broadcast on a Tuesday night, right? All right. Make sure you notify me, right? I'm supposed to tune in and jam with you. I like that, right? You are blessed. So am I. It's incredible, isn't it? I got to tell you guys that sometimes we don't know the extent to which we're blessed. Just this past weekend, Saturday, as a matter of fact, you're going about your business. And I don't get to do social media. Like, I don't have the time to just scroll through my timeline and read stuff. It's a rare thing when that happens. Maybe once a week. Sometimes good morning, maybe one, or good evening where you're coming from, maybe twice a week or something. Hey, right? And so this past Saturday morning was a rare opportunity. I actually found like a 30-minute block of time, and I sat down and found myself on Facebook. And it was through Facebook I discovered that my cousin's mother had died. Now, why was that new to me? Because when they called me earlier, I thought they were just catching up. So I was too busy to take the phone call. I saw the text and I was like, okay, I'll call you back. And then I just thought, oh, we talk. We talk. So what's the big rush? I guess I knew instinctively that there was some bad news, so I didn't want to know. I guess that's what I knew. So I didn't call back. So Saturday morning, I'm scrolling through my timeline and I see my cousin saying his mom has a homegoing service. So I'm like, where's she going? At first I was like, where's she going? So I picked up the phone and called my sister. My other sister lives in Maryland. My cousin lives in New York. So I called her and she's like, we've been trying to call you. Why did you answer the phone? You couldn't even return a text message. What is going on? And I was like, oh, did I mess up? So I called my cousin. At the moment that I called him, he was actually at the gravesite planting flowers. Oh my God. Saturday morning, I was like, unbelievable. So his mother is someone I knew, right? Someone from my childhood. So I'm like, I gotta go. So I went to do some self-care in advance. And I'm going to talk about self-care one of these days, how important it is to do self-care. I'm going to talk about it because it's very important. So I went to do some self-care and I went to get some comfort food. And I was just like, it's kind of doing something to me here. So as soon as I'm done with this broadcast, I'm headed to do some more self-care because it's creeping, because last Monday was my mom's birthday. And then to learn that my cousin lost his mom is kind of like, because they're all connected. So, now all the parents are in heaven. And I'm like, what are they talking about? And I'm like, I don't want to know. They're good where they are, right? And I'm like, all the parents are in heaven. So if you have a parent who is in heaven today, know that I feel for you. Know that my prayers are with you as you matriculate through this season, because it is a season. Like I told my cousin yesterday, it's a season. It's nothing you did wrong. You're not being punished. God doesn't hate you. Because so often when someone dies, that's the messaging that God hates you and that God loves a person so much he would rather take them from you. That's not true, folks. That's not true. That's not true. I think in an effort to try to understand the why of it, we say things that invariably are more hurtful. So if you've lost a loved one recently, especially if that person was part of your universe, they were your everything, they meant the world to you, please know that God didn't take them because he needs more angels up there. God makes angels every day if he wants some more. He doesn't need to take your loved one to rob you of your angel on earth to create angels for him. That's not true. That's not what that is about. What it is really about is that everyone has a chosen path. Wasn't chosen by me, wasn't chosen by you. It was preordained. And I think as human beings, we strive to find control over our lives. And we think we have more control than we really do. And we think that the more money, the more power, the more influence, the more affluence we acquire gives us more control over our lives. But all the money and all that does not give us the control over death. We still can't make ourselves come back. We still can't stop death. We can delay it with medicine, but we can't stop it. Eventually it's going to come. And I think that's what the fight is, right? So if you have lost a loved one, know my prayers are with you. I've been there. I never thought it was something I could relate to until it happens to you, right? So today I want to talk about change. Change is coming, right? And I want to talk about what do you do when your partner changes up on you? Because this does happen, right? I'm reminded that summer is over, right? In some parts of the country, the kids are back to school. So their summer is effectively over, right? Here in the Midwest, it's passing us by, right? So we're going to have a few hot days. I mean, today's supposed to be one of those scorched earth days where it's going to be really hot for the next 4 days. And then it's going to gradually start getting cooler. So we go into that Indian summer where it's cool in the mornings, hot during the day, and cool in the evenings as the seasons change. We're at a pivotal point. It's going to be pivotal because we're on the tipping edge of something great. Something is going to happen that's going to tip the scales. And so many times, this is what happens in our relationships. Our partner changes, and at that moment of change becomes a critical point. It becomes a pivotal point for the relationship where it either goes south or it continues on its way up north. Sometimes things happen in our lives that bring that change about. It's not always pleasant. Nobody likes it. I don't think any of us really like when change comes. But change is a constancy of life. Change comes whether we like it or not. We were once little, all of us. We were once little babies. We were once someone's babies. We became toddlers, infants, toddlers, right? Then we became little terrors on 2 feet as we went to school, right? We matriculated through school, then we went to college, then we graduated, we become adults, working, we got married ourselves, have children ourselves. Change is a constancy of life. Nothing stays the same. And so what happens to us is that as we change, we evolve. And as we evolve, our lives revolve around a theme. There's always a central theme to our lives. Sometimes it's what we write. Sometimes it's what someone else writes. But make no mistake about it, there is a theme to life. There is a theme that crisscrosses our lives. And sometimes it's a good thing when we have an opportunity to write that theme. It's a good thing when we get a chance to change the course of events. Last night I was on my daughter's Instagram. We were in her room, and my oldest daughter, and we were looking through her Instagram, and we were looking at the people whom she follows on Instagram and who follow her. And like if most people, it's filled with people whom she knew. And we didn't know she knew all those folks. And a lot of them were young men. And a lot of them were young men whom they look different because they're posing. Turns out they're lawyers. They're travel bloggers. One of them writes for the Wall Street Journal. One writes for the other paper, the Washington Post. I was I was blown away, right? And they're just like, and when you look at it, I'm like, look how their lives changed. Most of them, they met when they were in middle school. Then they went to college. Then even though they went to college through social media, they maintained contact. And so there's still this wide community of people and whom they still, and I was thinking to myself, look at that. When they were in middle school, they had no idea that here you would be a travel blogger. Here you would be a travel writer. Here you would be writing on economics for the Wall Street Journal. Here one is writing for the Washington Post. One is a teacher in Chicago who writes opinions on education and Black teachers in education. Go figure. That was interesting to me. And I said to myself, this is how life is. Life changes. You look at them and you realize they're the next generation of leaders, that they're going to lead someday and that they're going to be in charge someday. And it brought to my mind how much change is a constancy of life and how sometimes we resent change because change doesn't always come without chaos. In fact, sometimes out of chaos evolves the most meaningful change. More often than not, when change comes, it knocks. And when it knocks, chaos erupts because it's momentous. Change is momentous. And as we look at the events of our lives and we think of who we are and we think of the relationships we've had, especially in our intimate relationships, right? How change has come knocking. For some of us, it came through learning of a spouse or partner cheating. For some of us, it was a work event, lost a job, lost a home, right? The loss of a child, right? The loss of a parent, the loss of a friend or so on, or you're getting older, so the parents have to move in. Change comes knocking. What do you do when your partner changes? You've been together since you were in college. You met in high school. You stayed together. Now you're in midlife. You turn 39 and 40, and your partner suddenly changes. Your partner announces they want to change. They don't like being married to you anymore. They don't want to be married anymore is usually what they say, but what they really mean is they want to change. They want to move on. Your partner says, I'm tired of living this way, especially for people who got married really early and they've never known anything else. They're the first ones who think that a change is going to be good for them and they want to change. What do? You find yourselves in this turmoil. You get to midlife and you're like, this is not what I signed up for. One of the things I have learned is that midlife brings the greatest crises. I don't know if it's that when we are younger, we view ourselves as more invincible. We view ourselves as more adaptable to change. We can bend easier. We are malleable, manageable. We can bend and twist with change. But as we get to midlife, we seek more stability. We seek to have a more stable life. We want to stay in the same job. We don't want to have to change jobs. Yeah, we want to not move. We want to stay in the same community. We want to stay with the same group of people. We want to stay with the same spouse, the same partner. But somehow here comes change knocking. What do? You find yourself suddenly in the midst of chaos. things suddenly are erupting around you. Because change, when it comes knocking, it's either you are going to go with it or it's going to bring its own season of chaos. You have to be ready. You have to determine what you're going to do. What are you going to do? It's staring you in the face. You're given ultimatums. You're given choices. What do you do? You've been working on the same job for 20 years, and now they say they don't want you anymore, but they can offer you a position that pays you half what you used to earn, or you take the severance and go. What do you do? And you're looking at it change. It came. It came at the wrong time. It came when your parents just had to move in. It came when your child just has to go to college, just graduated high school, about to go to college. You were depending on that income to be able to pay for their college acceptance. What do you do? And all of a sudden, your spouse now determines that he too wants a change. She too wants a change. They're re-examining their priorities. They don't want to be part of a couple. They don't want to be married anymore. They don't want to be committed anymore. They start experimenting with other stuff. Sometimes people find themselves turning to other substances. Some people who never drank a day in their lives suddenly find themselves experimenting with drink. They suddenly find it appealing. People who never smoked, suddenly smoking is appealing. You find them going to hookah bars and vaping and going to places where they're smoking weed. And you're like, what on earth? Things they never did before. Suddenly your partner, who is near 50, suddenly decides she's going to go take out a loan on a two-seater Mustang, a muscle car, driving down the freeway, and you're going nuts. What is wrong with you? We have an image to protect. Suddenly, change has come. And when it comes, what do? Sometimes change is heralded by death, with the death of a parent, the death of a child, the death of a loved one comes change. I remember standing on the street after my mother died. She was buried the Saturday after the funeral. I remember the following week, it took a few days to go through that. And I remember the Thursday, we had to take my daughter back to college. I bawled like a baby. The loss tore me into pieces, and I had to be strong for her, my youngest daughter, my aunt, and for everybody else. And I couldn't let anyone see the tears as I was driving down the street. I had my sunglasses on driving. And I remember just thinking, oh my God, what a wicked life. Change had come. I lost my mother. For the first time, I had to confront the fact that my children were going to go back to school in the fall. And I never had my mother. Usually, you would talk about the kids going back to school and blah, blah, blah. For the first time in my life, I never had that. The change had come. And I knew it was changing. I could tell that something momentous had happened or was about to happen, that I wasn't looking at it with the right lens. I wasn't looking at it with the view that I should look at it. In fact, I was just focused on the immediacy of the moment. I was viewing it from a perspective of loss instead of thinking what I was gaining. I was thinking I had lost my mother, but I wasn't thinking that her time on the earth had passed and it was over, but there is still a lot to do for the future. In that moment, I couldn't think that clearly. All I could think, I didn't want to think like that. I didn't have the mental energy to think like that. I didn't feel the positive vibes. All I saw was the loss. It didn't help that I was taking a child back to college. Are you listening to me? I'm telling you real life. I'm not making up stuff. I'm not fabricating stories. This is what happens to people in real time. I'm not one of those people who talk to you about stuff that sounds like all day you're floating on a cloud and it's all fluffy. They sound like they're on LSD to me. Are you listening to me? Do you see what I'm saying? I'm telling you real life stuff. In the midst of life, there was death. In the midst of death, there was life. While my mother was dying, my daughter had to go back to college to finish law school. In the midst of death, my youngest daughter had to go back to finish high school. Do you see what I'm saying? Life is a constancy. As long as we live, there is change and momentous change. Be prepared for it because change is going to come. I'm warning you. I'm telling you, change is happening all around us. Change. Just look at the seasons. Look at the times. The headlines are screaming. Change is going to come. Are you ready for the change? Sometimes I know it comes and it sweeps out from under you and it makes you feel like you're not ready for it. I know how that can be. I am the one who had to sit down at the table in my kitchen. I'm sitting, in your kitchen, you have that little area with your laptop and your telephone, kind of like your little office in the home, but it's right in the kitchen so you can go make the meals. And that's where from there, that's your planning center, I used to call it. That's where you plan all the events of the family. I remember sitting there contemplating, if I dial 911 right now and call the police, the change is going to come to my life. Am I ready for it? And I remember thinking, am I really ready for this change that's coming? That's going to come. Am I really ready for this next great step into the great unknown future? But change must come. And I remember sitting there thinking, when I dial this number today, it's going to set in motion a series of events that's going to change my life. That was November 2003. And that really did set, in fact, a series. I walked away, walked out of that house, never looked back, moved to Detroit, and began the process of walking in what I was called to be. How do you know that the change that's knocking at your door is not a positive one? You're never going to know unless you walk in it. It might look like it's not good, but trust me, in the end, all things work together for our good. We just got to believe. We got to believe. You got to hold on and believe. It might not seem like it's going to be great. Shanta. It might not even seem like this is something good that's going to happen, but trust me, in the end, it's going to work out. When my mother died, I felt like they had pulled the rug out from under my feet. I was too dependent on her emotionally without realizing it. She was my emotional backup, if you will. I could tell anybody anything. My mother was always going to back me up. I didn't need anybody because my mother was always there. She was my safety net. She was my safe place. Everything was there. You only had to call mom. Sometimes it wasn't that mom did you anything. Sometimes she was just there. She was your safe place. You know what I mean? Anything could go wrong. You could just call mom. Just hearing her voice or just seeing her, just knowing she was enough to feel safe. You're like, okay, all right. Everything gonna go. Mom, you pick up the phone and you dial 1-800. Mom, answer. Mom, this. Mom. And you would just call. For some of you, it's dad. You call dad, and suddenly you wake up and mom isn't there. And you're like, oh my God, how am I going to leave? Breathe. Just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. This next change that is coming, while momentous, is going to be good. It's going to be good for you. Don't fear it. Don't walk away from it. Don't cry. Yes, there are going to be moments when you cry. Grit your teeth and say, this too shall pass. And it will. I walked right through some of the most dangerous seasons of my life. And I know this to be true because the change for me always comes in the fall. When my mother died, it was during the summer, and I knew that the change was going to come in the fall. And the change came in the fall. I wasn't ready for it. But now, 2 years later, I can say it was a good thing. I knew it was going to be good, but I had to trust the process. Say, trust the process. You got to trust the process. I know nobody likes process. You notice there are processed foods on the shelf and they're not good for us. Yeah, because they went through a process. Food shouldn't go through such a process because then that means all the nutrients have been extracted from it. But this change that's going to come, what it's doing is a season of extraction. It's pulling away the negative stuff. It's going to erase the negative stuff this next season. It's going to take all the negativity and extract that which is bad and replace it with what is good and pleasing and the best for you. Accept the change that is coming. Sometimes what do you do when your partner says, I want a divorce? I don't want to be with you anymore. I want to be separated. Breathe and let it be. Walk through it. Write it out. Say, write it out. Write it out. Some of these things are just like a storm. You got to just write it out. Say, write it out. This next change. If it comes and it's not coming in the way that you want it, I think we've been socialized to believe in fairy tales. Isn't that true? We've been socialized to think that life is nothing but a fairy tale. Nothing could be farther from the truth. You and I know that by now. Life is not a fairy tale. Life is made up of hips and struggles and highs and lows and valleys and mountains in between. Life is not the same. It doesn't stay the same, right? But in the end, it shall speak and it shall not lie. Trust the process. Say change. Change is going to come. Change is coming. Change is knocking on your door. Change is announcing itself. It will announce itself in just a matter of time, in a matter of days. Change is going to announce itself. It shall speak and it shall not lie. The change is going to shake off and you're going to see the truth. Change. What do you do when your partner says, I'm going to walk out the door? Wish them well, pray about it, and keep it moving. Change is going to come. You look at it and you say, what have I done? You go and you pray about it. My daughter said something yesterday. She says, through all the stuff that's been going on, she says, all the prayer and meditation must be working because I've reached my zen where I'm just so like, okay. I'm like, it was a struggle to get back to this place where I'm even keeled, where, okay, so this is what happens. All right, well, this is what we're going to do about it. Sometimes you have to go through a process. No one likes the process. The process isn't good, is it? Nah, nobody likes process. I don't like process. Do you? Do you like process? I don't. But change is going to come. What do you do when the change comes? Be that as it may. Say, be that as it may. Be that as it may. Unto you, be it unto you according to your word. Sometimes people don't like that when you tell people stuff like that. Somebody comes and they want to interrupt the even keelness of your life. You say to them, be it unto you according to your word. They don't like that because what they have just done is interrupt the good flow. And now they want to bring in stress and distress. And you say unto them, be it unto you according to your word. Well, what you are bringing to me, the word you're bringing to me is bad. So be it unto you according to your word. Change, change, change. What do you do? I have found sometimes that when change comes, it announces itself. Change thinks that, it's its own process. It's its own struggle, its own God, its own demon. And it's going to come. And sometimes you don't have it in control. Sometimes for some of us, you go through seasons where one thing happens and it's like a sliding scale. And when you think it can't get any worse, it goes 10 degrees worse. And when you think it still can't get any worse, it goes 10 degrees worse. And it gets worse and worse and worse and worse until you say, oh my God, I'm done. I can't take anymore. And it gets worse and worse until this is you. You're completely exposed. You're face down. You know where you find yourself? You have to look up. Because now you know where your strength comes from. And then it gives you a new perspective because now you can say, you know something? Maybe it wasn't good for me to have all that. Maybe I didn't need all those people in my life. Sometimes you have to go through what the plants go through, metamorphosis, to emerge strong, beautiful. You have to go through that metamorphosis. Change, sometimes it's like you're shedding skin. You have to shed all that's not good for you to emerge into what you have to be. But change, my friends, is a constancy. Change is good. And it brings to mind for me too, when I think back on the seasons of my life, there are songs that go with seasons. There are some songs that you sang and they brought you through a moment. And there are some songs that when you hear it, you just know something bad is going to happen. So you don't want to hear it. And then you find you matriculate through that season. And you get to another season when you hear that song, it's a memory. Isn't that where we all want to be? A memory. We want all those stuff, all those bad things to be a memory. It's just like when your partner comes to you and says, I don't want to be married anymore. The first thing you think of is, oh my God, how can I save this? What can I do to save this? And you start thinking of all the times when they asked you to do something that you didn't want to do. And now you know what's running through the back of your head? He's leaving or she's leaving because I didn't do so-and-so. That is sometimes true. because sometimes we underestimate what saying no to a partner really means. You got to understand something. When you come together and you create a union, that is supposed to be the only union stronger than that is the union between you and the creator. So you are supposed to really listen to what your partner says. If your outside of people coming to you and telling you they want to rob a bank, crazy stuff like that, which you would say, absolutely, we're not going to do jail time together. They don't make jails for partners, do they? Or couples, do they? That's how you get out of that, right? You're all laughing, right? But if they come to you and they say they want to come and introduce some other sexual, because this is typically where it goes wrong. It's either money or sex. It's two things that brings change. Money or sex. They come to you and they want to try some new sexual position. Okay, go ahead with it. What is it going to take from you to do? If they come to you and they say they want to introduce a third partner to your relationship, well, interview them. Where did you meet this person? Where did the idea come from? Examine it. Don't dismiss it immediately and say, absolutely not. No, I'm not. No. Talk to them. Talk them through it. Maybe it's something that has laid latent in their subconscious for a while, and now they feel like they want to explore it. They feel like they have to act on it because they're approaching midlife. They think they're at a stage where all is well. Money's tucked away for retirement. Yeah. The mortgage is almost paid off. The kids are in college and how that is being paid for. So they feel like, what else is there in life to do? We can travel. We've been around the world a little bit. We've traveled. Let's try this other stuff over here. Listen. Just listen to it. Say, I'm working on it. Work through it. That's what you do. You don't say no immediately. You listen and you talk through it. They come to you and they want to go take a risky investment. Right? You have some money put away, and that money is your rainy day fund. Like if all else fails, if something happens, you both lose your jobs or whatever, that's your rainy day fund to help out one another. And they want to take the rainy day fund to go invest in something. Talk it through. Don't say no immediately. Don't say absolutely not, because then they're going to pull a divorce on you and take the rainy day fund to go do exactly what they want to do. You want to talk it out. Sometimes your partner comes and they want to get a divorce in the midst of it. In the midst of life, you're in midlife. To me, that's the worst time to make that kind of decision. You know why? Because you don't recover so quickly. It takes 10 years to recover from a divorce for a woman. It takes 10 years to recover financially. It takes time. In other words, it takes time. Don't do it. Don't do it. Listen and work it through. Talk. Say, well, when we were getting married, we dated for a while and we talk. So before we get divorced, we're going to talk and talk it out. I can't believe we get to this point that we can talk to one another. Talk. Don't yell. Talk. You don't have to go talk to someone all the time. Sometimes it's just the two of you. Talk. Encourage them to talk. I know sometimes especially when they're convinced that they need to be with someone else and they're with someone else and that other person is influencing, just wait them out. Wait them out, because the other person sometimes is there to push them to the point of making a decision, to push them to the point where they make a decision quicker than they want to. And often that person, they don't stay with that person. That person leaves and leaves them in financial ruin. But if you tell them that, they're not going to listen to you, right? How are you going to tell them that the person they think they're in love with is going to bring them to financial ruin or it's going to hurt them? They're not going to listen. Waste your time. You wait it out. You stall it and you wait it out without making it seem like that's what you're doing. You wait it out because you can see the end, right? Change. They're bringing a change to you. I heard a story about a woman with children. She cheated on her husband. They had a business together. For some reason, the person she cheated with convinced her that divorcing her husband was the best thing. Apparently, they thought that her husband was wealthier than they assumed. That she never spent time in the business, so she really didn't know how the money is made. She just saw the money paying the bills, and she could go shopping, so she thought there was an endless supply of money. They go to divorce, and while they're sitting there, when the husband starts really telling the real true financial picture, it's almost like she got an awakening. Guess what? It was too late. Her ego was on the table. She went through with a divorce, and her husband told her, "You're going to regret this." He knows what he's talking about, because he knows she's not going to make it on what he was going to pay per month. But change had come. It forced its way into her life, and she allowed it. She saw it coming. She knew it was a destructive change, but she still tapped into it. This is why I say don't cheat on one another, because cheating is its own demon. It brings about constant change. I know you all think that, yeah, you're just saying that because he cheated on you. Yes, he did cheat on me. But guess what? Look what it did. It destroyed people's lives, separated families. Is that a good thing? Is that good? No. Why? For one moment of cheating causes a lifetime of stress. Don't do it. You cheat not just emotionally and sexually, but you also cheat financially. You take money from your family's pot and you go and gamble it. And suddenly your wife wakes up and realizes that not even your house, the house they live in, is good. You gamble everything away. Motor City Casino owns your paycheck. I kid you not. People actually have accounts down at those places where they owe their money. It's the craziest thing ever. Gambling is its own demon. People get their paychecks and gamble it away. They do online gambling. Sometimes they don't even leave their homes anymore. At the click, a few clicks on their phone, they have an app. They gamble everything away. And now you find out that you have nothing. Change has come. You get a letter from the bank, and that's how you learn. Or you get a phone call. You answer the phone one day, and that's the bank letting you know they're coming. They want the keys to the house. Didn't they tell you 6 months ago to move out? Why are you still there? Change. What do you do? That's why I say don't cheat sexually, emotionally, or financially. And some people say, well, we're not sexual. We just talk and so on. Well, it's going to get sexual one day. You're going to explore it. Don't get involved with someone emotionally, mentally, or sexually outside of your partnership. It's very destructive. Don't. That creates a kind of change that leaves nothing but destruction in its wake. And sometimes we don't have as much control over it. That's why sometimes when these things come, you got to ride it out, because in 10 years, in a year, in 2 years, people change, things change. Give it 3 years, you change. If you feel like you need to go through a divorce outside of physical, emotional, and mental abuse, if you feel like you are going to need to go through a divorce, I suggest you wait it out. Give it 3 years and see what happens. Even if you legally separate, still give it some time. Because sometimes people are just like, I can't take it anymore. I'm just going to go. And you're not thinking. In the moment, you are not thinking. When you put pen and paper down, you realize you're not in a position to divorce. You're actually better off. You're stronger together financially. Especially as you approach midlife. None of us know what can happen down the street. Right? You don't know what can happen. You're going and going, and then finally you found out that after a while, you find out that you're not as well as you should be. But here you are in a new marriage where you have a new child and you have to go work. What you gonna do? And you've lost everything in the last divorce. Change is a constant. Change, people, change. Be careful of it. Watch out for it. Change. Right? So my thing is this. If your partner comes to you and for some reason they feel like this is something that they need to do, right? This is something that they want to do, listen carefully. Talk it out before you go. But one thing you do know is that when that person is so ready for change, nothing is going to change their mind. They've made up their minds that they're going to do it. This is what you do. You leave it up to God. My prayer for you is that whatever season you're in, that the change that is coming will be a good one for you. My name is Harriet Kemrick. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Make sure you go to my website, harrietkemrick.com, as well as go to the exodusfoundation.com. Be a blessing to us as we continue to bring meaningful change to victims of human trafficking. Ensure that you post a message, say something to us. Let us know that you are there with us as we help to combat the traumatic effects of those whose lives have been hurt and affected and traumatized as a result of human trafficking. The exodusfoundation.com, right there on the homepage. Click on donate. Help us to get this work done. We need your help, right? Join me tomorrow. And of course, you know that on Sunday mornings, you have your Sunday morning hour of inspiration with me. So make sure you tune in on Sundays at 11 a.m. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day. Peace and live gloriously. Peace. Peace in everything that you do. Live gloriously. Have a great day. It's Monday. Go out and live gloriously, right? Enjoy what's left of summer because God knows